I now have two absolute demands concerning Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. 1. Andrew absolutely must now volunteer a full account of all his dealings with the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The fact that he hasn't done this already is a national disgrace. 2. The Metropolitan Police need, as a matter of absolute urgency, to reopen their investigation into Andrew's purported conduct in 2011, when it is alleged that he asked his taxpayer-funded Met Police protection officer to conduct background checks on Virginia Giuffre, the woman who claimed she was trafficked to London to have sex with Andrew in 2001. I'm demanding this step to be taken as I believe it to be the most likely path for legal consequences for the ex-prince, regardless of his denial of wrongdoing. And in my view, it is long past time for Andrew to be brought to account, if in fact he has broken any laws. This investigation should also cover the new allegations concerning a woman sent to Andrew by Epstein in 2010, who claims she spent the night in a royal residence, Royal Lodge, the property that Andrew shared with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson since 2008, and from which they have now essentially been evicted. The context of these demands is that on the 30th of January, millions of new files relating to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein were released by the American Department of Justice. While the release is the largest to date, containing 3 million pages and including 180,000 images and 2,000 videos, it almost certainly won't be the last. Tragically, some would say unsurprisingly, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is mentioned in a tranche of fresh emails included in the release. There are also photographs where he is allegedly seen on all fours and appearing to touch the abdomen of a young woman who is lying on the floor. If these images are genuine, they are made all the more baffling and creepy by the fact that in one of them, Andrew is looking directly at the camera. What on earth is he doing? What was the purpose of the pictures that he knows are being captured for posterity? When did this happen? Where is he and who is he with? These are just some of the questions he must now answer. It is important to say, however, that being included in the files does not implicate Andrew in Epstein's criminality, and that the ex-prince has strenuously denied any wrongdoing. First then, let's talk about my number one demand. Andrew must come clean. In an official statement in February 2022, as part of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's undisclosed civil settlement with Mrs. Giuffre, rumoured to be worth $12 million, the ex-prince pledged to, and I quote, demonstrate his regret for his association with Epstein by supporting the fight against the evils of sex trafficking and by supporting its victims. Let me say that again. He pledged to fight against the evils of sex trafficking and support its victims. Well, almost 4 years have passed. And what has Andrew Mountbatten Windsor done about that promise? As far as I can tell, absolutely nothing. Well, Andrew, I'll tell you what you can do. If you care at all about the evils of sex trafficking, talk. If you wish to support victims, talk. What are you waiting for? Creating a sworn, voluntary affidavit doesn't require your travelling to the US to appear before the US Congress, as suggested by the British Prime Minister. A sworn, voluntary affidavit can be written today. You can start right now. Again, I ask, what are you waiting for? You have to know that anything you might say, no matter how inconsequential it appears to you, about your extensive contact with the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein might help to bring peace to his dozens of victims. If you care even an iota for the victims of his appalling evil crimes, talk. Nothing else will satisfy honour. What possible cause could you have for not now compiling a full and complete account of your known 12 years of contact with Jeffrey Epstein? If your 4 years of silence, since you stated you wanted to support victims of sexual trafficking, is what I imagine it to be, namely an attempt to protect your reputation, I have news for you, mate. You don't have a reputation to protect. If you care at all for the victims, if you care a jot for your own family, for the reputation of the monarchy, if you ever meant a single word you ever said about service and sacrifice, you will volunteer to tell the world everything. And you will do it now. You have no decent excuse not to. Meaning if you don't immediately come clean, under oath, it is tantamount to declaring you don't care at all about the victims. And if you don't care, be a man, own it. Say you don't care. Say that your promise from 2022 was a cynical carapace, an attempt to shield yourself from accusations of naked hypocrisy and deceit. Or you can do as decency demands and talk. Besides, your silence is not protecting you. In fact, it's because of your silence, in light of the recent revelations, that I now believe the only thing you said in your infamous Newsnight interview in 2019 that was true was that you didn't regret being friends with Jeffrey Epstein, who, for the avoidance of doubt, admitted in 2008 to soliciting sex from a 14-year-old girl in Florida and was subsequently sentenced to 18 months in jail. And in 2019, you told Newsnight you didn't regret being friends with that guy? Really? I'm now calling it. As far as I'm concerned, everything else you said in that interview was a pack of lies. I believe Jeffrey. I stand with Jeffrey and all the other victims. And to Andrew, I say directly, I simply do not believe a word you said. Now to my second demand, that the Metropolitan Police formally reopen its investigation surrounding Andrew's conduct in 2011. These are the facts. In 2025, the Mail on Sunday reported on an alleged 2011 email from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to Ed Perkins, then Queen Elizabeth's Deputy Press Secretary. In it, he wrote, and I quote, "It would also seem she," meaning Virginia Giuffre, "has a criminal record in the States. I have given her DOB, meaning date of birth, and social security number for investigation with, name redacted, the on-duty PPO, meaning Personal Protection Officer." While it should be stated that there is no evidence that any serving PPO actually followed up on the alleged request, it is clear what Andrew's apparent intent was, to dig for dirt on Giuffre, so she could be discredited in public. Whether or not a PPO actually actioned any investigation into Giuffre, if Andrew did indeed make such a request, is immaterial. The request on its own offers potential grounds for legal action, both in Britain and the US. To that point, Di Davies, the Met's former head of Royal Protection, told the Mail on Sunday, and I quote, "Asking a police officer to investigate an alleged victim is outside of their duties, whether that is calling the FBI, your mates in the US, or searching out themselves. That is, in my view, a criminal offence." Di went on to urge authorities to question Andrew under caution, to attempt to ascertain if there is any evidence he abetted an officer to commit the criminal offence of misconduct in public office, adding, and I quote, "It is time for Scotland Yard to launch a full criminal investigation into Prince Andrew." Furthermore, in the United States, under the Identity Theft and Assumption Deterrence Act, it is an offence to knowingly use, transfer or possess another person's social security number with the intent to commit an illegal act. Spencer Couvin, who represented 9 Epstein victims, told The Telegraph, and I quote, "Penalties for this crime are very severe and can be up to 15 years in prison." That is why I'm now demanding of the Metropolitan Police that they investigate Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It should be done now. He should be questioned under caution, his rights read, and his statement taken under oath. The idea that public resources might have been used to blacken the name of a victim of sexual exploitation is abhorrent. Not only does it demand the urgent attention of the police, but it also needs to be seen to be investigated. Many survivors of the most appalling abuse feel unsafe coming forward to the authorities. And we cannot have a situation where even the suspicion exists that elite members of society have the power to have victims targeted for investigation by serving police officers. That is how justice fails and perpetrators walk free to abuse again. I mean, how hard can this matter be to investigate? Talk to Ed Perkins, the man who allegedly received the email. Get the PPO logs from the Palace and Royal Lodge. Talk to the officers. Question Andrew under caution. Why am I even explaining this to you? You're the police. Do your job. Furthermore, as time passes and more revelations emerge, none of which have been seriously investigated, the King looks weaker and weaker. If reports are to be believed, it was only under pressure from Prince William and Queen Camilla that Charles acted to de-prince Prince Andrew in the first place. That puts us in a position where the stripping of Andrew's titles looks more and more, every day, like a slap on the wrist. And this is what's so galling. Practically every day we see Andrew riding horses around Windsor Great Park. Who pays for that? Andrew's new home. Who pays for that? Andrew's allowances. Who pays for that? No, enough is enough. And this is my third demand. Cut him off. The time has come. Absolutely and entirely. Cut him off. If Andrew Mountbatten Windsor won't act to protect victims, why should we protect him? Why should he have anything from the Crown or public purse? Why? Therefore, King Charles, this is my demand of you. Cut Andrew off. Because if there's a single solitary penny of taxpayers' money going to that man, it is more than he could ever deserve, and more than the British people could ever stomach. Those, therefore, are my three demands. 1. Andrew needs to give a voluntary statement under oath. 2. The police must investigate the ex-Duke's alleged conduct in 2011. 3. King Charles, cut him off. The time has come. Nothing else will do. We'll be discussing these and other issues surrounding the disgraced Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in this week's Palace Confidential, including whether the House of York should be formally dissolved through an Act of Parliament to prevent Andrew Mountbatten Windsor from ever using the title, which according to many experts, he still can. So watch out for that this coming Thursday. Thanks for watching. I'm Richard Eden.